Konnichiwa, my fellow samurai and ninjas. Orange Crush here, coming at you with a first impressions video of Ghost of Tsushima. Even though I'm a little late with this video by YouTube standards, I would like to pitch in my 2 cents for this PS4 exclusive by Sucker Punch Studios. I've enjoyed it tremendously so far, and I think you fine folks would too. So without further ado, let's strap on our katanas and dive right in, shall we? An invasion of Japan by the Mongols during the 13th century. You play as Jin Sakai, who is one of the last samurai in Tsushima after his fellow warriors get decimated in the opening sequence of the game. After the brutal curb stomp, which leaves you for dead and your uncle, Lord Shimura, captured, you wake up in a camp after being nursed back to life by Yuna, a local thief. With her help and others, it falls to you to rescue your uncle, rally the remaining samurai on the island, and beat back the Mongol invasion. The story is fairly direct and straightforward, but that offers a chance for it to be truly immersive, especially with its pseudo-historical setting. As you explore the world, there are plenty of chances to learn about life on Tsushima Island, the history of its people, and the threat they face. One of the game's strong suits is its ability to blend in the open world exploration with the overarching story, taking you all over the island as you prepare for the daunting task of saving your homeland. Also, the ambience offered by the music and the visual design lets you get sucked into this game like those typhoons that killed off the real Mongol invaders. The gameplay I felt was pretty solid. The combat itself felt like it was a little tougher than something like Assassin's Creed, but the parry windows were a lot more forgiving than any of the Soul games are. Enemies tend to swarm and attack with multiple mechanics in one go on hard mode, but once you upgrade the dodge tree or the parry tree, it isn't an impossible task in order to get through these encounters. There are also different sword styles you unlock throughout the game that you use for different kind of enemies. So far, I have one for sword and another for shield types. I imagined that maybe the third and the fourth one would be for the spear dudes and maybe the dual-wielding shanky guys, respectively. Speaking of your upgrade tree, it does feel like it's going to be a little easy to max out your skills before the end of the second act. I say this because, from what I've heard from my friends, the first act is the largest section of the game. There are also some things which look to be gate-locked behind the main story, so maybe this isn't going to be much as a problem as I think, but the first section alone offers you a chance at some pretty powerful tools, like the sticky bombs and the bow, which is OP-AF, as the kids would say. The one saving grace for this is the 1v1 boss encounters which you encounter from Mongol camps or some of the story content or even some of the side content that don't let you use your ghost skills or your auxiliary weapons like the bow. The bosses themselves are scripted encounters that can be really hectic at first, but they do offer a recognizable pattern. If you feel like you're undergeared though, the game will eventually let you drop the encounter and let you come back. What's slightly irritating about this is that it only happens after an X amount of failures. In the future, it would be nice to see if the option to give up was immediate as opposed to being forced to try a billion times before the game lets you forfeit. Outside of the boss fights, the game is slightly easy to cheese with ghost mechanics, which is the game's stealth section. The stealth in this game is really enjoyable so far, and nothing is more satisfying than murking an entire camp of Mongols from the shadows. There are 3 issues though I have found, however, with the stealth versus honored gameplay styles. Number 1. The game needs a body move mechanic like the Day 6 or Thief games. Without it, enemies will just randomly go into high alert mode, and then they will force you into combat. It sort of ruins the element of choice of stealth versus combat, which kind of leads me into my second complaint. The game will force you to take a straight up combat approach or a stealth one in the story quest without very little wiggle room. Again, if you include stealth mechanics in a game, then allow for a multi-pronged approach when approaching objectives, just like Day 6. Number 3. There does seem to be very little consequences for choosing assassination and stealth mechanics outside of the brief cutscene that you get when you get your first stealth kill. This could be something that changes in terms of the story later on when I get to the end of the game, but gameplay-wise, this feels like it would be a perfect chance to have something like a penalty to your parry or your block when you go further into the game. Possibly one of my favorite parts of this game so far is the open world exploration. Aside from the usual fare of storming enemy strongholds for their fat loot, you have some rewards reserved just for roaming through Tsushima, like finding the shrines or conversing with NPCs to unlock additional side quests that give you special skills like the Heavenly Strike. Part of the reason I'm still in Act 1 is I'm just enjoying roaming through the countryside, doing side quests, freeing territory from the Mongols, finding lore items, and unlocking more of my skill tree. There's even a neat little bamboo cutting side game that lets you increase your resolve, which is your health potion reserves. There is also hot springs that increase your health pool and apparently more side content I haven't even discovered yet. My point is the game seems to evenly divide its exploration rewards for different activities. And some of this side content is challenging as well, like the Heavenly Strike boss that I mentioned earlier. But it offers such an amazing skill that it is worth the investment that you put into it. It's things like these that make me feel like it is less of a grind and more of an invitation to see more of the world. And that is a big plus for any open world action adventure game. Aside from the few minor gripes, I have enjoyed streaming this game over the last couple of weeks off and on, and the aesthetic was alone enough to pique my interest. But the exploration and encounters are what kept me interested. I enjoy the narrative so far about Jin struggling to step into his uncle's shoes to save his homeland, and I look forward to seeing that story to its conclusion. I hope you enjoyed my perspective on the matter, and I invite you to come watch my stream as I finish the rest of the game. Once I do, I will build a full review, and I will upload it on this channel. I'd like to maintain a format where I do a short first impressions of the game first, and then do a long breakdown once I beat the game. Again, this is Orange Crush, and I will see you folks later.